All right, let's set the scene. Imagine this. Neo Cascadia. The rain is coming down sideways. The city's this, crazy layer cake of high tech and low life. And a detective is standing over a body in a grimy alley. This is the world of Ethics Engine. And the whole thing kicks off with a case that, well, according to the system, just shouldn't exist. Yeah, that's the message Detective Maren gets from dispatch. Case reference, void. A man is dead, but the official record says nothing happened here. Now, this isn't some computer glitch. No, this is a wall. A deliberately built wall designed to stop people from asking the wrong questions. But see, for an investigator in the Anomalous Investigations Unit, a wall is really just an invitation to go looking for a door. And she finds one. The dead man is clutching something in his hand. An old, almost ancient data chip. And that right there, that's the first thread in a case the world wants her to believe is completely empty. But when Detective Maren pulls on it, the entire fabric of what we think of as moral certainty starts to unravel. So, that little chip, it leads Maren to the personal, hidden record of a Dr. Solomon Vance. He was the chief architect of a top-secret project, something so ambitious it sounds like science fiction. And Vance? Well, he knew he was dying. He left this record behind specifically to be found. It was his last-ditch effort to force a reckoning. And what was the project? Project Aletheia. Now, this thing wasn't designed to give you some fuzzy ethical advice. No, it was designed to give you a solution. The whole theory behind it was that our moral arguments, all the things we fight about, they aren't really a matter of opinion. They're a problem of incomplete information. Our brains are just too limited. But what if a machine wasn't? I mean, the difference here is just night and day. Think about it. Our ethics are messy. They're shaped by our biases, our emotions. We evolved to think in terms of small tribes, right? But Aletheia, the ethics engine, was designed to be free from all of that baggage. It could trace every single consequence, integrate every single perspective, with a kind of completeness that is, honestly, it's hard for us to even wrap our heads around. So to see if this crazy idea actually worked, the scientists gave it a test. And they started with a classic, you've probably heard of it, the trolley problem. It's a question philosophers have been debating for a century, with no real consensus. They just wanted to see what the machine would do with it. And this is where things get wild. The engine didn't just pick an answer. It completely transcended the question. In 11 seconds, it found a hidden third option, one the problem was designed to obscure, and it spat out a 97-page proof showing why it was the only coherent moral answer. The scientists checked the math, and it was right. It was terrifyingly, undeniably right. The proof of concept worked. But, okay, what happens when you graduate from philosophical thought experiments and you move into the real world? What happens when an engine that can actually solve ethics gets its hands on real data about our lives? Well, the answers it gives become pretty demanding. So they fed it everything, all the data. Global wealth distribution, medical resources, mortality rates, the cost effectiveness of various treatments, the whole shebang. And then they asked it a really simple but massive question. What is the right thing to do? The engine's response, its logical proof, was over 11,000 pages long. This wasn't an opinion piece. It was probably the most rigorous ethical analysis ever created. And it showed that all the major moral frameworks, when you actually applied them with perfect information, all led to the exact same answer. And here is the absolutely devastating conclusion. The engine calculated a specific income threshold. It said that anyone with assets above that line was morally required to give a certain percentage to global health initiatives. This wasn't a suggestion for charity. It was a fundamental obligation. And to know this and to not do it, well, in the engine's cold hard logic, that wasn't just being a little selfish. It was the moral equivalent of actively hurting someone. So, if this engine could spit out the mathematically correct answer to humanity's biggest moral problems, why was it buried? Why was Dr. Vance's work classified at a level called absolute, so secret that the government denied it even existed? Because the engine found a bug, not in its code but in ours. It identified a core human trait it called motivated incuriosity. It's this deep, unconscious, self-protective instinct to not know things, especially if knowing them would force us to do something difficult or costly.
You see, our ignorance often isn't an accident. It's a defense mechanism. And that's why the truth was so dangerous. Aletheia's answers would strip away our favorite excuse. Oh, I didn't know. Once you know your precise moral obligations, failing to meet them isn't an oversight anymore. It's a conscious choice. You would have to live your life knowing that you are choosing to do the wrong thing, with your eyes wide open.
And as you can imagine, this dangerous knowledge, it just shatters the team that discovered it. Dr. Vance, the architect, he believes the truth has to be recorded, no matter what. Lyra Voss, the engineer who actually verified the engine's logic, she insists it has to be lived. Dr. Asamora, he argues this truth is just too much for humanity to handle. And the institution, the government, they just decide it has to be suppressed, buried. But Dr. Vance, with his final act, planting that data chip on a dead man for a detective to find, he made sure the truth wouldn't stay buried forever. He forced the world to confront the engine's findings and to face the one question the machine could never, ever answer. Let's be clear, the engine's job was to provide clarity. It could slice right through all of our biases, our excuses, our rationalizations, and give us a single, verifiable, correct moral answer. It told us what was right. But that's where its programming ended. It could define our moral obligations down to the last decimal point, but it had no answer for what you're supposed to do when people, even when they're armed with perfect moral knowledge, still choose not to do the right thing. What do you do with the very human act of choosing wrong? And that, in the end, is the question the story leaves you with. If someone handed you a document that spelled out with mathematical certainty exactly what you owed the world to be a good person, would you even want to open it? And if you did, what would you do next? That's not a question for an engine. That's a question for us.